episode 10 of Tom Squared. I'm joined by my co-host Tom. Forgot to introduce him last week, so I can't miss it this time. How are you?
Thanks for acknowledging me as part of this podcast, Birchie. My name is in the title, but no, I'm good. I'm looking forward to this episode. I think it's going to be a really good one.
Our listeners were put to sleep for the last two episodes, I think, from Yang. So we've pulled out the big ones here.
It's a very big name. It's going to be the biggest name we're probably ever going to have on this podcast. I don't want to set a limit, but I feel like maybe we're peaking with this one.
I think it's safe to say, and if anyone might tell by the title of the podcast, it is esteemed football TV presenter and host of the Guardian Football Weekly, Max Rushden. Tom, do you want to just let the listeners who might not know how this came about?
Towards the end of the season, I had the biggest shock I think I've ever got while at Howard Dawson Reserve, seeing Max Rushden roll in for his Metro 8 game against our thirds. Probably the last bloke I was expecting to see there, but sure enough, there he was and he had a run.
And he's kindly joined us. Let's just jump straight into it. Thanks, Max Rushden, for joining us. How are you?
I am very well. It feels like the culmination of a life's work to finally make it on the Swinburne FC podcast. I've listened to it since I was a boy, and I'm very excited to be. I'm a bit nervous, but I'm very excited to be here.
I was going to ask you, Max, that given this is a clear highlight in our broadcasting careers, on the flip side, is it the lowest point in yours?
Well, I mean, I'm worried what that says for your broadcasting careers. If this, no, I mean, the low for me was. I once, at TalkSport, the radio station I work at, they once put a gold medal winning Olympian cyclist Knight of the Realm on my show with me for 6 weeks, and we didn't click. I think it's fair to say, and I don't want to give you his name, but let's call him like Sir Hadley Jiggins, right? And every time I'm doing any kind of show and he doesn't appear on it, I feel sort of lucky, in a way. But like, he obviously thought I was a massive bellend as well. So it's totally fine. I wish him all the best with all his future endeavours. But like, it was hard work. It was hard. It was a hard time. So now this is very much a joyous occasion for me.
I'm glad it's not rock bottom. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Max, might just want to jump in. Do you want to just give us a brief overview of your footballing history? Where have you played? What are the divisions? What are the leagues you've been in?
Really good question. What age do you want me to start at?
Go from the top.
Right from the beginning?
Yeah, from the beginning.
Start fresh.
Okay. So I started kicking a ball around on the Green Triangle, which was just off Linwood Road in Cambridge. You probably know it. And actually, it was quite often there wasn't a lot of grass. It was a much more even surface than your football pitch, I'd like to point out. And there were no lakes in it as well, which was nice. So that was quite small. Then I migrated up to Parker's Piece, which was like a big expanse of grass in the middle of Cambridge, where the first ever rules of football were put up in the 1880s or something. And then I probably had a few games of Cubs football, then school under 10s, under 11s. When I started as a centre midfielder, and when I lost my pace, I went up front. And so I lost my pace when I was about 10. So then I played school football, and then I went to a school that didn't play football, and I didn't like that, so I left that school. And then Hills Road first team, Sixth Form College first team for a bit, then Keble College first team at university, Oxford University third team and second team occasionally, then the ex-Melbourne Village College Dolphins for 2 years, then the Polytechnic 6s/4s for 20 years, and then the University of Melbourne Bohemians for the last 2 seasons. Very International honours 0, I didn't point out.
Quite extensive.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, at what point did you sort of realise that maybe a professional football career wasn't on the cards? Was it around the age of 10 when you lost your pace?
I haven't. Not yet.
Still hoping.
You never know, right?
England
just
call
gotta
up.
Keep putting it in. Yeah, if you keep working hard, the call might come. When you grow up and like on your street, you're like, well, the best player, he'll play Premier League. Jack Cole, he was going to play Premier League. I was probably going to play League One. Matt Walsham maybe League Two. Clive depending on his fitness, League 1, League 2. But no, there was never any danger. There was no danger. And I'm actually quite pleased about it now. I think it's not an easy route to happiness. It might bring you wealth and fortune, or it might not, but I don't think it lends itself to a happy existence. And we are all searching. I know all the listeners to this podcast are all searching for ultimate happiness, and that's why they come to. It's very much a self-help pod, isn't it? And we're all looking for ultimate happiness, and I don't think professional sport is the way to find that.
I think you've absolutely nailed the point of this pod. Have you come across? You've obviously played in England and Australia. What are some of the main differences that you've seen playing in both countries?
In Sunday League specifically, though.
Oh, sure. In Sunday League, okay. I mean, there's no sort of discernible massive difference, right? You find a level that fits for you, and the funny thing about the level that we play at, right, is we're a vets team, but we're playing all age, right? So I don't know were either of you playing in that game we played in?
Nah.
No. Okay, that's good. Because what happens is,
here we go.
you get to the warm up, right? And I look at the opposition almost every game, and I look at them and I just see them warming up, and I think, fuck, these are shite, right? Because I forget that I'm now 44 and some of my teammates are 60, and then these bastards are like running past you, and you're like, I know I'm better than you, and like we won that division and we played the grand final. And we didn't really know the grand final was happening, so like the league was what we wanted. We came up against this team, and they were good and they were young, and we were like, on a different day we'd have won this game if that day had been in about 2006. But but genuinely, there's no massive difference in my experience of the division that what we play in and what I played in back in London. Is the refs here they think it's the Champions League final, right? I'm like sort of mad. Like before the first game, I'm standing there on the edge of the centre circle, and the ref goes, "Tuck your shirt in." And I'm like, excuse me? So I tuck your shirt in. I'm like, well, I don't have to tuck my shirt in. And also, like, the respect campaign is much more serious in Australia, right? It's a good thing, right? Respect the ref. And my teammates are like, no, do what he says. I'm like, oh, okay. But I'm like, well, obviously a minute into the game, my shirt is not tucked in, and no one gives a shit. And like, we had a player booked for going off, substituted, not going off at the halfway line. And you're like,
wow,
are you for real? This is completely insane. Like, what game are you refereeing here? Like, we're paying to do this, right? You know, this is complete madness. That's sort of I'd say that's the biggest difference I've noticed is the kind of the officiousness of the of course, you know, some are more chill and some aren't, and etc. But there was one game I was playing back in the UK where the ref made a terrible decision, and I was like, "Ref, what the fuck's that about?" And he stopped the game. He said, "Look, last week I read a Guardian column you wrote about the respect campaign."
It's hard to argue with that.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah,
you got me there, mate. You've got me there. That's fair. But otherwise, you know, it's exactly the same. And I've chatted to professional footballers about this, and it is, I think, whatever level it is, the sort of principles of the dressing room, the sort of camaraderie, the shit jokes, the things you know about your teammates and all that, and the feeling you get when you even the feeling you get when you score a goal or you miss a chance, all those things actually don't change massively, right? And I love playing so much, and I'm happy. I'm going to keep on doing it until I can't move. Although the game you saw me playing, I couldn't move, and so maybe that time has come.
You alluded to it there, Max, but playing Sunday League with a public profile, does it make you a target sometimes? Do you find that players will go after you sort of physically in challenges and stuff, but also verbally? Do they have a crack?
Yeah, I mean, a bit, but I mean, not so much now. And like, people like the pod in Australia, but it's slightly different to back in the day. I used to host this TV show called Soccer AM, right, which was sort of all the footballers watched it, but all the amateur footballers watched it. And sometimes, like, I would go off air at midday. I might have a 1 o'clock kickoff or a 2 o'clock kickoff. I might have to, like, occasionally be a real dickhead and have to get like a motorbike, you know, like motorbike taxi to the game. And then you look like a twat already because you're getting off the back of a motorbike. Yeah. But like quite often, or like I'd forget to take my makeup off, and then like so you're standing there on the halfway line at kickoff, and someone's looking at you going, "Have you got makeup on? That's weird for her." And yeah, occasionally people would be like, most people were really nice, or like I'd been playing in that league for much longer than most people. Were just surprised that I was doing that show because they didn't know what I did, and then I appeared on this show out of nowhere, and I'd already played against them, so they were like, "Oh, that's weird. I didn't know you did this for a living." But occasionally you play like a cup game and they had no idea, and before the game someone would clock you and go, "That's really weird." Occasionally, people have kicked the living shit out of you, or just but rarely. Most people are quite nice. And over here, because it's people who listen to Football Weekly, people sort of weirdly they like it, and so they're just sort of happy to have a chat afterwards, and that's always quite gratifying. Really, it's a sort of level of, I wouldn't even use the word fame because it's so ridiculous, but it's a sort of Z-list level where it's nice, where like every couple of days someone might say, "Oh, I like what you do," and then carry on. It's not like I can't leave my house, It's it's like I lead a very tedious, banal life, and it's exactly the same as everyone else's.
I'm not going to lie, Max, when you rocked up at Howard Dawson Reserve to play against Swinburne, I was obviously there, and seeing you there was a bit weird because I didn't know which club you played for, and I wasn't expecting you to rock up at the park that I play football at. So, yeah, it was a bit of I had to do a double take.
That pitch is absolutely. What is that?
I was going to ask you about this.
Is that the government? Is that whose fault
Council.
is that? I don't want to.
He's the president, so
has
he
a tough job.
He should be sorting this
I'm
out.
going to put this in the application for more funding on the ground.
Yeah,
It's
can
the
you?
council.
Because that, and I don't know what borough that is. My knowledge of Melbourne is poor at best. So I'm in hipster Northcote, right? So I don't go that far. I'm googling Howard Dawson Reserve. I don't want to go that far. But anyway, yeah, it has issues. But what was interesting on that day was we obviously thought you were rubbish because you were bottom of the league. But actually, I think to make up the numbers, you had to fit it with a few half decent players, and we didn't. We were hopeless. We were really terrible. And I can't remember who was in goal, but it was a centre back. And I thought you guys had some quite good players, and we could tell they played for a better team because they'd already played in that match in front of us during the
We cannot confirm that or deny it.
I was watching them be quite good in a game, and then they stayed on the pitch. I was like, oh, that's a bit annoying.
It must be an honour to have that puddle in the back left corner named after you. In one of our earlier episodes, we dedicated that part of the field in your honour, so the Rushden puddle.
That's probably the greatest moment of my life. Yeah, I mean, in the summer, I dry up a bit, don't I? And it's a bit, I don't get as much coverage. And then, come May, June, the Max Rushden puddle will return. It'll be if you want me to open it, like, little ribbon.
Cut the ribbon.
You'll cut the ribbon?
Yeah. Yeah. Why not? I mean, I don't want to absolutely, I'm quite busy. I've got a young child. This is the thing. I shouldn't be driving to Howard Dawson Reserve unless we're playing the next season. But if we are, I will christen the puddle.
You touched on your Metro 8 Southeast title win earlier. Do the celebrations change when you win a title now, or is it a bit different than 20 years ago, say?
I mean, I've always been a massive square. So, I guess 20 years ago I did end up in a nightclub, but against my will. Here, I'm trying to think. See, my radio is in the evening, so I do Saturday and Sunday morning for the UK, but Saturday, Sunday evening here. So I can't really go completely wild because I've got to be on air at sort of 10 o'clock that evening or 8 o'clock, depending on the time difference. But we did spray champagne around a dressing room and like sing Championes in a really shit way. That when you're in the mosh pit, you think, God, this is a cacophony. This is like Galatasaray. This is unbelievable. And then when you watch the video back, you're like, oh God, this is terrible. But it's pretty similar. It is really like, it's great. Like there was one guy in our team, Mo, he must be in his 50s. He's never won a title ever. And we got our medals on Friday night, and it's like, I've still got my medals hanging up, from various cup and league wins over the years. Like, there's no better feeling. It's great. It's so good, and it makes you think. And then we do this. I don't know if you do this. The best thing that I've seen here that we never did back home was like Player of the Year. At the end of the game, I don't know if this is all the teams, but one of the guys has got little scraps of paper, and you give 3 points, 2 points, and 1 point to like who you thought was the best player that day. And then at the end of the season, it's like Eurovision. Someone comes with all the envelopes. And then you get pissed in a pub and people count up the votes. So you're like, I had a good game there. And you go like, Max, 3 points, Max, 3 points. And you're like, yeah, I'm like Switzerland in Eurovision. Like, come on. And then there are games where you think, I had a good game that game. And you get no votes. And you're like, God, that is so annoying. But it's brilliant. You guys, I mean, I don't know if you do it, but you should do that. I was going to say, and the only other thing is I don't know if do you have a song? Like the first time we played and we won, and then we all got in a huddle and sang a song. I was like, what cult is this? What have I joined? This is really worrying. Maybe I've joined the wrong team, but now I'm into it. I don't really know all the words, but I do really like it now.
We do have a song. Obviously in a typical small soccer club, we've just changed Free From Desire to Swinburne's on Fire.
Really good.
It's pretty successful. We like to think it's original, but I think I've seen some copycats.
Yeah, well, it isn't original. I mean, I think we can. You don't have to think that. I think we can categorically say
we know that.
Gala got there first. But ours I think is the Carlton AFL song or something.
Yeah.
We are the Uni Blues. We are the the Uni Blues. We're the team that never let you down. We are the best team in Uni Town or something like that. Anyway. I'll be absolutely massacred if any of them listen to this.
I hope they do.
It's something like that. But it starts really well. It starts like bum ba bum ba bum. Hey bum. I'm like, yeah, I love this shit. This is great.
I presume you're going to go around again and defend the title.
Oh yeah. I mean, the issue I have is I go back to Europe for June and July, which is quite a large part of the season. So like the game that I played for you, I just landed basically. And I didn't think I was going to start. And then I think we had a couple of players out. And I started, and I shouldn't have done. I couldn't run. I was hooked after 20 minutes. I must admit, I was pretty sad not to be put back on. Every other fucker got back on. And I was like, But it was good man management. It got me psyched for the following week when I went back into holding midfield.
So how many votes did you get at the awards night? I just wanted
Not a vote.
Not one?
For Swinburne away? Yeah. None. Oh, but over the season?
Yeah. Are you a key player?
No, nowhere near. I think I had one game. The game we won the title, I played holding midfield and I had a good game, and I got all the votes. Basically, everyone gets all the votes, and there's a couple of players who are better than all the rest who get all the votes. And if you score, you get votes because people can't remember what happened in the game. So they go, he scored. But as long as you have one game a season where you're like, okay, it was worth doing this, then you can come back. But yeah, I'll definitely be back next season. Play about 4 or 5 before I go away. Then, get the glory at the end, last 4 or 5. I don't know why you don't play the football season during the football season. That would make much more sense to me.
Don't get started on that, Max. That's a whole other podcast, I reckon. But are you hoping to hang in there? Is the body going to hang in there long enough to take the pitch with your son?
He's only 18 months old. So what would I have to be? He would have to be, 16? But yeah, I reckon because my game is not based on pace, so I've just got to treat my body right, do the right things, and but imagine if he plays AFL. Oh, what I really want is for him to get the broadest Australian accent, rinse your sporting system, and then open the batting for England. That's what I really want.
You've got it all worked
out.
Would be
great. Really, full bogan, as Australian as they come. Mullet, wearing a singlet in an England singlet. That's what I want.
That would break
bashing off the
Australian
runs. Yeah, that would be so good. If he scores a century and goes fucking A, that would be brilliant, wouldn't it?
I'll put you on the spot here, Max.
Please do.
What's your absolute number one standout Sunday League story?
Wow. The one that sort of is most remembered is Carshalton away, where I don't really dribble past people, but like sometimes if just sort of someone's weight is going one way and mine's going the other, I might get past the player. Like it's nothing to do with ability. I was playing centre mid against a really good player, and I sort of managed to get past him, and then the next thing I felt was he'd shoved 2 of his fingers up my bottom, like right up it. And I was slightly confused at the time. And the ref was obviously miles away. And so I said, excuse my language, I just said, what the fuck are you doing? And he looked at me and he went, you fucking love it, mate. and you know, normally in the moment you don't say the right thing. You think, and you think an hour later, you think, but I didn't. I really got it right. I said, I don't, and even if I did, this is not the time for it. And anyway, weirdly, like after the game, we're in the bar. And he just came up and went, oh, sorry about that, and then walked off. And I was like, that is not, that Larry David episode when it's like, your commensurate apology. It was like, that was not commensurate. And eventually, I think like he did it to one of our other players, and he'd done it a couple of times, and he got banned for like months. Because, I mean, it is sexual assault. But it's a story that people, for some reason, quite like to hear.
Can't say it's ever happened to me.
No.
I really
that
hope
doesn't
it
happen in
doesn't.
Australia so far. As yet, it hasn't happened in the Metro 8. I don't know what Metro 7 has in store, but fingers crossed. Fingers just crossed, I would say, not inserted.
Might wrap that up. Thank you, Max. We really appreciate you coming on.
It is a pleasure. Thank you for having me. And I don't know if we're in your division next year. I don't know how it all works, or if you have another team. But if not, if I'm ever passing, I will open the puddle.
Well, wasn't that good, Tom? Great to have Max Rushden on the pod.
As a Football Weekly listener, I never thought I'd end up on the same podcast as Max, but yeah, there you go.
We're kind of competing, but we're going to let the Guardian Football Weekly have the European audience, and we might just try and lock in on this Sunday League Australian listeners.
I think it's the way to go. Let's be realistic. I'm not sure that we're going to have huge success in Europe, but you never know.
For those that have just joined for this Max episode, we do kind of do this semi-regularly. So if you are interested in some more Sunday League Aussie stuff, make sure to give us a follow on Spotify and maybe just give us 5 stars as well.
All right, so we will be back next week. The bar's very high. How are we going to top this one?
Let's be honest, Tom, we're not, but let's just enjoy it.
Yang, you're not coming back.
No.